The stars were quiet again, but the silence was different now. It wasn't the silence of fear. It was the silence of change. The Vorlix had not all left. Some still floated in space, watching, thinking, feeling, and some even helping. The war was not over. But the battle had shifted, not with weapons, not with fire, with memory, with love, with Lena. Ethan stood on Mars. He looked at the sky. The red dust moved in slow waves. The air was thin, cold, but it was air, and he was alive. Lena was not, but her voice was everywhere, in messages, in songs, in stories told by survivors. People remembered her kiss, not just the one she gave Ethan, but the one she gave the galaxy, the one that changed everything. Back at Base Echo, life began to return. Tents became buildings, food became meals, fear became hope. Children played, old men talked, new plans were made, not for war, for peace, for learning, for living. A small school opened. Its first class? Human Emotions and the Vorlux, taught by Ethan. He didn't want to at first, but then he saw a child draw a picture. It showed Lena standing between two worlds, one human, one Vorlux, and smiling. That was when he knew. She hadn't died. She had become something more. On the moon, a new statue rose, made from broken metal, from old ships, from war. At its center stood Lena, eyes closed, hand outstretched, holding nothing and everything. The words below read, "She gave them what they could not take." Reason to feel. People came from across the colonies to see it. Some cried, some prayed, others just stood and watched and felt, which was what she wanted all along. The Vorlux did not vanish. Some stayed near human worlds, not as enemies, not as friends, but as students. They asked questions. They listened. Sometimes, they even laughed, not like humans, but close enough. A new language grew between the species, not built on rules or commands, but on feeling, joy, pain, hope, loss, even humor. One day, a Vorlux walked into a bar on Europa. It said, "I do not understand why you drink this liquid when it makes you speak loudly." Everyone laughed, even the Vorlux smiled. No one knew how, but they did. Dr. Harris helped start a new academy. It was called the Human Vorlux Institute of Understanding. Its goal? To teach both sides about each other, not science, not war, but life, what it meant to be alone, to love, to cry, to hold someone's hand. Students came from Earth, from Mars, from the moons of Jupiter. Even Vorlix came. Some wore suits, some used translators, but they all came to learn and to remember. Ethan taught there too. He taught the history of the war, of the fall, of the rise, of Lena. He never spoke of her as a hero. He spoke of her as a person, flawed, brave, scared, alive. He told his students she didn't win because she was strong, she won because she was human. One student asked him, "Do you think the Vorlux will ever be like us?" Ethan thought for a long time, then he said, "No, but maybe we can help them be something better." The student nodded and wrote it down. Earth was still broken, but it was healing, slowly, quietly, like a wound that finally stops bleeding. Trees grew again, rivers ran clean, cities began to rise from the ashes, and in every home, every station, every colony, there was music, songs, stories, laughter, all things the Vorlix once feared. Now, they tried to make their own. One Vorlix colony sent a message. It said, "We made something." Attached was a song. Simple, soft, played on an instrument no one recognized, but beautiful. Ethan played it for his class. When it ended, one student asked, "What does it mean?" Ethan smiled. "It means," he said, "they're starting to live." Outside, the stars shone. Mars glowed red, Earth turned slowly, and far away, in deep space, a Vorlix ship floated. Its lights blinked softly, like a heartbeat, like a breath, like a dream, and somewhere inside it was the echo of a kiss. The alien delegation returned to their ship after their first day at Station Alpha 7. Krall, Zia, and Thok sat silently in the cockpit, each lost in their own thoughts. They had seen things that defied their expectations, things they couldn't quite explain. They're different, Thok finally said, breaking the silence. His deep voice carried a mix of awe and unease. Different doesn't even begin to cover it, Krall replied. He tapped his six-fingered hands on the control panel, replaying the events of the day in his mind. Their strength, their confidence, it's unnatural. Zia tilted her liquid silver head, her reflective surface catching the dim light of the cockpit. Unnatural? Or just unfamiliar? Humans have adapted to survive in ways we haven't. That makes them dangerous, but also fascinating. Krall frowned. Fascinating or not, we need to understand them better. If the Galactic Conqueror decides they're a threat, this could get ugly. Thok nodded slowly. Then we should keep observing. The more we know, the better prepared we'll be. The next morning, the aliens were invited to visit a human colony on Mars. It was one of Earth's oldest off-world settlements, built to test humanity's ability to live beyond their home planet. As their shuttle descended onto the red planet, the crew peered out the windows at the sprawling domes and towering structures below. This place is massive, Krall muttered, his eyes wide with surprise. How did they build all this so quickly? They don't waste time, Zia observed. Humans seem to thrive under pressure. When they landed, they were greeted by a young woman named Emily Ross. She wore a simple jumpsuit and carried a tablet tucked under her arm. Her smile was warm but professional. "Welcome to New Hope Colony," she said, extending her hand. "I'll be your guide today." Thok hesitated before shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, almost too strong for someone so small. He glanced at Krall, who shrugged as if to say, "What did you expect?" Emily led them through the colony, explaining how humans lived on Mars. The air inside the domes was breathable, thanks to advanced filtration systems. Plants grew in hydroponic farms, providing food for the settlers, and despite the harsh conditions outside, life inside felt almost normal. These temperatures would kill most species, Zia noted, as they passed a group of humans working near an open vent. The air shimmered with heat from the machinery. Emily chuckled. "Yeah, it gets pretty hot sometimes, but we adapt. You'd be surprised what people can handle when they have to." Their tour took them to a gym where colonists trained to stay fit in low gravity. Inside, a man named Jake Morrow was lifting weights. He spotted the aliens watching him and grinned. "Hey there," he called out, setting the barbell down with a clang. "You guys want to see something cool?" Before anyone could respond, Jake grabbed a metal beam lying nearby and bent it into a U-shape with his bare hands. The alien stared in disbelief. "How did he do that?" Thok whispered, his bark-like face frozen in shock. "It's nothing special," Jake said casually, tossing the bent beam aside. "Just part of staying strong out here." Emily smiled, proudly. "Jake used to be a firefighter back on Earth. He knows how to handle himself." Krall's antennae twitched nervously. "Firefighter? What does that mean?" "It means he saves lives," Emily explained. "Back on Earth, fires can spread quickly and destroy everything. Firefighters run toward danger while everyone else runs away." Zia tilted her head thoughtfully. "So, humans value bravery as much as strength?" "Absolutely," Emily replied. "Courage is what keeps us going, even when things seem impossible." Later, the group visited a medical bay where doctors treated injured colonists. One patient, a young boy named Sam, had suffered burns during an accident. Despite his injuries, he smiled brightly as the doctor checked his bandages. "He'll recover fully," the doctor assured the aliens. "Human bodies heal faster than most species, and our immune systems are incredibly resilient." Krall leaned closer to examine the boy's wounds. "This level of healing, it's remarkable. It's survival, the doctor corrected, gently. Earth isn't always kind to us. We've learned to bounce back. As they left the medical bay, Thok muttered quietly, "If humans can endure this much pain and still smile, they truly are something else." By late afternoon, the aliens were invited to join the colonists for dinner. The meal was simple but hearty: roasted vegetables, grilled meat, and fresh bread. Everyone gathered around large tables, laughing and sharing stories. "This is how humans bond," Emily explained as she handed plates to the aliens. "Food brings us together." Kral sampled a piece of roasted potato and raised an eyebrow. "It's good, very flavorful." "That's because it's real," Jake chimed in, leaning back in his chair. "We don't mess around with synthetic stuff unless we have to." Conversation flowed easily as the humans asked questions about the aliens' homeworlds. In return, the aliens shared stories of their own cultures. For the first time since arriving, Kral, Zia, and Thok felt a sense of connection, not just with the humans, but with each other as well. "You know," Zia said thoughtfully, "perhaps humans aren't so different from us after all. They struggle, they fight, they dream. But they do it on a whole other level," Kral finished, shaking his head. "They're like supercharged versions of every species we've ever met." After dinner, the group moved to an observation deck overlooking the Martian landscape. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the red terrain. Laura Finch, the soldier they had met earlier, joined them. "So, what do you think of us now?" she asked, folding her arms across her chest. Kral hesitated before answering. "We think you're impressive, stronger than any species we've encountered." Laura smirked. "Don't let that scare you. Being strong doesn't mean we're looking for trouble." "I believe you," Zia said softly. "But not everyone will. Some in the Galactic Concord may fear what they don't understand." "Then it's up to us to change their minds," Laura replied firmly. "We're survivors, not conquerors. If they give us a chance, they'll see that." Thok nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but convincing others won't be easy." "No," Laura agreed, "but nothing worth doing ever is." As the night wore on, the aliens prepared to leave. Before boarding their shuttle, Kral turned to Emily and said, "Thank you for showing us your world. It's been enlightening." Emily smiled warmly. "Anytime. Maybe next time, you can show us yours." The aliens exchanged glances, unsure how to respond. Finally, Zia spoke. "Perhaps, but first we must decide what to tell the council." "What will you say?" Emily asked curiously. Kral sighed. "The truth, that humans are unlike anything we've ever seen. Strong, resilient, compassionate, but also unpredictable. And maybe," Zia added, "that's exactly why you should be respected." With that, the aliens boarded their shuttle and departed, leaving behind a colony full of curious and hopeful humans. As the ship ascended into the Martian sky, Kral glanced back at the glowing domes below. "Humans truly are behemoths," he murmured. "Yes," Zia agreed, "and perhaps that's not such a bad thing." Back on their ship, Kral, Zia, and Thok gathered in the cockpit to discuss what they had learned so far. Their visit to Mars had left them with more questions than answers. Humans were stronger, smarter, and more resilient than any species they had ever encountered. But were those traits a blessing or a threat? "We need to test them," Kral said firmly, his 6 arms gesturing emphatically. "Observing isn't enough. We have to see how far their abilities go." Zia tilted, her head thoughtfully. "A test could reveal their true nature, but it must be done carefully. If humans feel provoked, they might react aggressively." Thok nodded slowly. "Agreed. Let's propose a series of trials: physical, mental, and emotional. If we present it as cooperation rather than confrontation, they might agree." The 3 aliens quickly drafted a plan and sent it to Earth's diplomatic team. To their surprise, the response came back almost immediately. "We accept your proposal. Send details of the trials." A few days later, the aliens arrived at a neutral testing facility located on a distant moon. It was a barren, rocky landscape with artificial domes scattered across its surface. Inside one of these domes, a group of humans waited patiently. They had been selected for their diverse skills and backgrounds. There was Jake Morrow, the former firefighter known for his strength, Emily Ross, the biologist who understood survival in harsh environments, and Danny Cruz, a construction worker, famous for his problem-solving skills. Each of them stood confidently, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Kral greeted the humans with a slight bow. "Thank you for agreeing to participate in these trials. Our goal is to better understand your capabilities and your limits." Jake grinned. "No problem. Just don't cry if we beat you at everything." Kral chuckled nervously. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." Trial 1. Physical Endurance. The first trial took place in a massive arena filled with obstacles designed to test physical strength and stamina. The course included climbing walls, balancing beams, and sprinting through narrow tunnels. "You'll compete against our best athletes," Zia explained. "Their bodies are engineered for speed and agility." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Engineered? That sounds like cheating." "It's just biology," Zia replied smoothly. "But let's see how you compare." As the trial began, the alien athletes moved gracefully, completing each obstacle with precision. But the humans weren't far behind. Jake scaled the climbing wall faster than anyone expected, using only his hands and feet. Danny navigated the balance beam with ease, even when the surface shifted unexpectedly. And Emily sprinted through the tunnels like she had been training for years. When the timer stopped, the humans had finished the course seconds ahead of the aliens. "Well, that was fun," Danny said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "What's next?" Trial 2. Problem Solving. The second trial focused on mental challenges. The participants were placed in separate rooms and given puzzles to solve. Some required logic, others creativity, and a few demanded teamwork. Inside her room, Emily stared at a holographic projection of a complex machine. Her task was to figure out how it worked and repair it. She studied the components carefully, her mind racing through possibilities. Within minutes, she identified the issue and fixed it. In another room, Jake faced a virtual simulation where he had to escape a collapsing building. Using quick thinking and resourcefulness, he found a way out before the timer ran out. Meanwhile, Danny tackled a riddle involving patterns and numbers. At first he struggled, but then he remembered something he'd seen during his construction work. With a sudden burst of inspiration, he solved the puzzle. When the results were tallied, all 3 humans had succeeded, some faster than others, but none failed. "You're clever," Zia admitted grudgingly. "Very clever." "That's what happens when you grow up solving problems every day," Emily replied with a shrug. Trial 3. Emotional Resilience. The final trial was the most challenging. It tested emotional strength, the ability to stay calm under pressure and make decisions. In high-stress situations, the humans were placed in a simulated disaster zone. Fires raged, alarms blared, and injured victims screamed for help. The goal was to save as many lives as possible while managing limited resources. Jake sprang into action, grabbing fire extinguishers and putting out flames. Emily tended to the injured, improvising bandages from scraps of cloth. Danny organized the rescue efforts, shouting orders and keeping everyone focused. Despite the chaos, the humans worked together seamlessly. By the end of the simulation, they had saved nearly everyone trapped inside. Kral watched the entire scene unfold with growing admiration. They didn't panic, not once. They adapted, Zia added. Even when things got worse, they kept moving forward. The aftermath, after the trials ended, the aliens and humans gathered in a large conference room to review the results. The data was clear. The humans had excelled in every category. "You've proven yourselves," Kral said, addressing the group. "Your strength, intelligence, and resilience are unmatched." Jake smirked. "Told you we'd do fine." "But this raises new concerns," Thok interjected. "If humans are this capable, how will other species react? Many may fear you." Emily frowned. "Fear? Why would they fear us? We didn't attack anyone. We didn't even try to win. We just did our best." Exactly, Zia agreed. That's why we need to share these results wisely. Fear comes from misunderstanding. If we explain who you truly are, perhaps others will see you as allies instead of threats. Danny crossed his arms. And if they don't? Then we'll deal with it, Jake said firmly. One step at a time. As the meeting concluded, the aliens prepared to leave. Before boarding their ship, Kral turned to the humans and said, "You've shown us that being strong isn't about domination. It's about overcoming challenges and helping others. Thank you for teaching us that." Emily smiled warmly. "Anytime. Remember, we're not here to fight. We're here to build." With that, the aliens departed, leaving the humans standing proudly in the dome. As the ship disappeared into the distance, Jake looked at his teammates and grinned. "So, what's next?" he asked. "Whatever comes our way," Emily replied, confidently. "Because that's what humans do. We adapt, we survive, and we keep moving forward." The results of the trials on the neutral moon didn't stay secret for long. Within days, recordings of the events leaked across the galaxy. Holovids showed humans solving puzzles faster than machines, surviving extreme conditions without breaking, a sweat and working together to save lives in chaotic simulations. The footage spread like wildfire, sparking debates among countless species. At first, many dismissed the videos as fake. Surely no one species could be that strong, smart, and resilient all at once. But as more evidence emerged, skepticism turned into curiosity, then awe, and finally fear. Some called humans mythic beings, while others whispered about them being half gods, half beasts. A popular Holovid series titled Behemoths Among Us became a galactic sensation, dramatizing humanity's rise and portraying them as unstoppable forces of nature. Back on Earth, few people paid attention to the growing buzz. Most humans were too busy living their lives, working jobs, raising families, and dreaming of better futures. They had no idea they were becoming legends far beyond their solar system. Fear takes root. Not everyone saw humans as heroes, though. On a distant planet, orbiting a red dwarf star, a council meeting was underway. Representatives from several alien factions gathered in a dimly lit chamber, their faces tense with worry. "They're too powerful," said Varnock, a reptilian diplomat with scales shimmering faintly in the low light. "If left unchecked, they'll overrun us." "Overrun?" countered Lyra, a slender insectoid creature with iridescent wings. "They haven't attacked anyone yet. All we've seen are displays of strength and ingenuity." "That's what makes them dangerous," Varnock snapped. "They don't need weapons, they're weapons. Look at those trials. Their physical power alone is terrifying." A hush fell over the room as another video played on a large screen. It showed Jake Morrow lifting an alien athlete off the ground during a friendly competition. The athlete laughed, nervously, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. "They're unpredictable," muttered Krell, a bulky amphibian-like being. "And unpredictability breeds chaos." Lyra sighed. "Or maybe it breeds opportunity. Humans have shown they can adapt to any situation. Perhaps we should learn from them instead of fearing them." Her suggestion was met with murmurs of disagreement. Fear had already taken root, and once planted, it grew quickly. The mining colony. Incident on a remote mining colony near the edge of human space, tensions boiled over. A group of scavengers, aliens who made a living raiding abandoned outposts, decided to test humanity's reputation for themselves. They targeted a small, human research station manned by only a handful of workers. "This will be easy," said Gorak, the leader of the gang. He was a wiry Khorne with jagged teeth and scarred bark-like skin. "Just a few humans, no weapons, no backup." His crew nodded eagerly, their greed outweighing their caution. They landed under cover of darkness and crept toward the station. Inside, a lone human aid worker named Sarah Lynn was finishing up her nightly rounds. She had been sent to help the miners recover after a recent accident. Unarmed and unaware of the danger approaching, she seemed like an easy target. When the scavengers burst in, Sarah froze for a moment, but only a moment. Her training kicked in immediately. As Gorak lunged at her, she sidestepped and grabbed a nearby shovel. With a single swing, she knocked him flat on his back. What the? Gorak sputtered, stunned by the blow. Before his crew could react, Sarah moved like lightning. She disarmed one attacker with a swift kick, used his weapon to disable another, and pinned a third against the wall with sheer force. Within minutes, all 5 scavengers lay sprawled on the floor, groaning in pain. Sarah stood over them, breathing heavily but calm. "You picked the wrong place to rob," she said simply. Then she activated her communicator. "Security? I've got some guests who need picking up." The galactic reaction news of the mining colony incident traveled fast. Footage of Sarah's fight, captured by the scavengers' own cameras, went viral. Viewers watched in amazement as a single unarmed human took down 5 armed aliens with nothing but a shovel and quick reflexes. "She's amazing," whispered a young Zalari child as she watched the video for the 10th time. "I want to be like her when I grow up." Her father, however, frowned. "Don't idolize them too much. Humans are dangerous." The mixed reactions mirrored the broader sentiment across the galaxy. Some species admired humanity's resilience and resourcefulness. Others viewed them as a looming threat that needed to be contained or eliminated. Diplomatic tensions. Back at Station Alpha 7, Matt Carter received a flood of messages from alien diplomats. Some praised humanity's actions, calling them brave and justified. Others demanded explanations, accusing humans of provoking violence unnecessarily. Matt handled each inquiry with patience and tact. "We don't seek conflict," he told one particularly agitated ambassador. "But we also won't stand idly by while our people are harmed. Every species has the right to defend itself." Despite his calm demeanor, Matt couldn't ignore the rising tension. Reports poured in daily about protests, boycotts, and even military mobilizations near human borders. It seemed clear that not everyone welcomed humanity's presence in the galaxy. A new challenge one evening. As Matt reviewed the latest updates, Laura Finch entered his office. "Trouble brewing?" she asked, leaning casually against the doorframe. "You could say that," Matt replied, rubbing his temples. "Some factions are getting restless. They see us as a threat, not allies." Laura smirked. "Let them think what they want. We've faced worse odds before." "I know," Matt said with a tired smile. "But this isn't just about us anymore. Other species are caught in the middle. If things escalate, innocent lives will be lost." Laura's expression softened. "Then we'll have to prove them wrong. Show them we're not here to conquer. We're here to coexist." Matt nodded slowly. "Easier said than done. But you're right. We can't let fear dictate the future." A symbol of hope. As the days passed, humanity's legend continued to grow. Stories of their strength, courage, and compassion inspired many but terrified others. In bars, marketplaces, and council chambers, debates raged about whether humans were friends or foes. On a quiet moon orbiting a gas giant, a young alien girl sat with her parents, watching a holovid of Sarah Lynn taking down the scavengers. Her wide eyes sparkled with admiration. "Mom, Dad," she said softly, "can I be like a human when I grow up?" Her father hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, he smiled gently. "Maybe someday, sweetheart. But remember, being strong isn't just about fighting. It's about protecting others and knowing when to stop." The girl nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, I'll try." As the video replayed on the screen, the image of Sarah standing tall above her defeated attackers lingered in the girl's mind. To her, humans weren't just behemoths, they were heroes. Tensions between humanity and certain alien factions reached a boiling point. Despite Earth's peaceful intentions, fear and misunderstanding continued to spread across the galaxy. For some species, the idea of humans as unstoppable behemoths was too much to bear. They saw only danger, not potential allies. On one side of the conflict stood the Galactic Concord, a loose alliance of civilizations trying to maintain peace. On the other side were radical groups like the Iron Coalition, a faction of warlike species who believed humanity needed to be stopped before it was too late. Their leaders argued that coexistence with humans was impossible, and they began preparing for war. The Iron Coalition's plan, in a hidden fortress orbiting a dying star, the leaders of the Iron Coalition gathered around a holographic map of human space. At the head of the table sat General Zyron, a towering warrior with glowing red eyes and armor etched with battle scars. His voice carried authority as he addressed his council. "Humans are unpredictable," Zyron growled. "They claim to seek peace, but their actions tell a different story. Look at the mining colony incident. One human took down 5 armed scavengers without breaking a sweat. Imagine what an army of them could do." "We can't let them expand further," added Commander Veltar, a sleek, feline-like alien with razor-sharp claws. "If we act now, we can contain them before they become unstoppable." Zyron nodded grimly. "Exactly. We'll send envoys first, pretend to offer aid while gathering intelligence. Then when the time is right, we strike." His plan was met with murmurs of approval. The Iron Coalition would test humanity's resolve before launching a full-scale invasion. If they succeeded, they would eliminate the threat once and for all, recruiting humanity. Meanwhile, rumors of the Iron Coalition's plans reached Earth. Diplomats from neutral species warned Matt Carter about the growing hostility. Some even offered to mediate talks between humanity and the radicals. Matt listened carefully but remained skeptical. "Why would they suddenly want to negotiate?" he asked during a meeting with Laura Finch and Emily Ross. "This feels like a trap." "It probably is," Laura replied bluntly. "But if they're coming here, we should be ready." Emily frowned. "Ready for what? A fight?" "That's exactly what they want, to paint us as aggressors." Matt sighed. "You're right. We can't give them an excuse to attack, but we also can't sit back and wait for trouble. Let's send observers, people who can blend in and report back if anything suspicious happens." Laura grinned. "I volunteer." "You always do," Matt said with a small smile. "All right, but take Kevin Hale with you. He's smart, resourceful, and knows how to stay out of sight." The Siege Kevin Hale was a former soldier turned explorer. Quiet and observant, he had spent years traveling through alien territories, learning their customs and languages. When Laura approached him about joining the mission, he didn't hesitate. "What's the plan?" Kevin asked as they prepared to leave. "Simple," Laura said. "We go in, look around, and get out before anyone notices. If things go sideways, we improvise." Their destination was a remote outpost near the edge of human space, a key location for trade routes and supply lines. Intelligence suggested the Iron Coalition might target it as part of their strategy. Sure enough, within days of arriving, Kevin and Laura noticed unusual activity. Alien ships patrolled the area, and strange crates were being unloaded under cover of darkness. "This doesn't look good," Kevin muttered as they watched from a hidden vantage point. "No kidding," Laura replied. "Let's move closer." Under the cover of night, the 2 humans infiltrated the outpost. They moved silently, avoiding patrols and gathering evidence. What they found shocked them. Blueprints detailing an assault on nearby human colonies along with stockpiles of weapons and explosives. "They're planning to hit us hard," Kevin whispered. "We need to warn the others." Before they could leave, alarms blared throughout the compound. Someone had spotted them. "Time to go," Laura shouted, grabbing Kevin's arm. They sprinted toward the exit, dodging laser fire and leaping over obstacles. As they reached the outer perimeter, a squad of heavily armed guards blocked their path. "Surrender!" one of them barked, raising his weapon. Kevin glanced at Laura. "Got any ideas?" She smirked. "Just one." With lightning speed, Laura charged forward, using her surroundings to her advantage. She disarmed the nearest guard with a swift kick, then spun around to knock another off his feet. Kevin followed close behind, using a makeshift shield to deflect incoming shots. Together, they fought their way through the ambush, leaving chaos in their wake. When they finally escaped into the wilderness, Kevin panted heavily. "That was insane." "That's what we do best," Laura said with a grin. "Now let's call for backup." The message spreads back at Station Alpha 7. Matt received Kevin and Laura's report with growing concern. The Iron Coalition wasn't just planning an attack, they were mobilizing forces across multiple systems. It was clear that diplomacy alone wouldn't stop them. "We have to prepare," Matt told his team. "Fortify our borders, rally allies, and make sure everyone knows what's coming." Word of the impending conflict spread quickly. Human colonies braced for impact, reinforcing defenses and training civilians. Across the galaxy, other species debated whose side to take. Some joined the Iron Coalition, fearing humanity's power. Others sided with Earth, inspired by its resilience and determination. The battle. The first clash came sooner than expected. A fleet of Iron Coalition ships descended upon a human research station deep in uncharted space. Outnumbered and outgunned, the researchers inside prepared for the worst, but the attackers underestimated their opponents. Inside the station, engineers rigged traps and repurposed equipment into makeshift weapons. When the invaders breached the walls, they found themselves facing not frightened victims but determined fighters. One of the defenders was Kevin Hale. Armed with nothing but a broken rifle and sheer willpower, he held off wave after wave of enemies. Each shot counted, each movement precise. By the time reinforcements arrived, Kevin had single-handedly taken down dozens of hostiles. The footage of his stand became a symbol of human defiance. Shared across the galaxy, it showed the galaxy what humans were truly capable of, not just strength but courage and ingenuity. A turning point as, the dust settled, the Iron Coalition realized their mistake. Attacking humanity hadn't weakened it. It had united it. Colonies that once kept to themselves now worked together, sharing resources and strategies. Allies from other species rallied to Earth's side, drawn by tales of heroism and sacrifice. Even General Zyran couldn't deny the truth. "Humans aren't just strong," he admitted during a private meeting with his council. "They're relentless. Every blow we land fuels their resolve. This isn't a war we can win." For now, the fighting paused. The Iron Coalition retreated, to regroup, but everyone knew it was only temporary. Humanity had proven it wouldn't back down, but the real challenge lay ahead. The war had paused, but the galaxy remained uneasy. Humanity's resilience during the recent battles had left an indelible mark on both allies and enemies. For many species, humans were no longer just mysterious newcomers. They were a force to be reckoned with. But questions lingered. Why were humans so strong? How did they adapt so quickly? And most importantly, what made them different from every other intelligent species? The Galactic Concord decided it was time to find out. A team of scientists, led by Dr. Vela, a Zalari biologist known for her groundbreaking research, was assembled to study human DNA. Their goal was simple, yet ambitious, to uncover the secrets behind humanity's extraordinary abilities. Studying. Human DNA on Station Alpha 7, Matt Carter welcomed the scientific delegation with cautious optimism. "We're happy to cooperate," he told Dr. Vela as they toured the station's labs. "But remember, we're not lab rats. Treat us with respect." Dr. Vela nodded solemnly. "Of course. Our aim is understanding, not exploitation. Over." The next few weeks, the team collected samples from volunteers across Earth and its colonies. They analyzed blood, tissue, and genetic material, running countless tests to compare human biology with that of other species. What they discovered shocked even the most seasoned researchers. "Humans have something we've never seen before," Dr. Vela explained during a meeting with Matt and his advisors. "Their DNA is redundant." "Redundant?" Matt asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes. Most species have one or two copies of critical genes, for example, those responsible for healing or muscle growth. Humans have multiple copies. It's like their bodies are designed to survive almost anything." Emily Ross, who had joined the discussion, leaned forward curiously. "So, we heal faster because our bodies have backup systems?" "Exactly," Dr. Vela replied. "And it doesn't stop there. Your neural pathways are incredibly flexible, allowing you to learn and adapt rapidly. Plus, your immune systems are unusually robust, capable of fighting off diseases that would devastate others." Kral, the Virex diplomat, chimed in. This explains why humans can live in such extreme environments, from freezing tundras to scorching deserts. Your bodies evolved to handle stress far beyond what nature intended. Matt sighed thoughtfully. It sounds impressive when you put it that way, but none of this happened overnight. We've been through millions of years of trial and error. Every challenge shaped us into who we are today. A history of struggle to better understand humanity's evolution. Dr. Vela requested access to Earth's historical archives. She spent days reviewing records of ancient wars, natural disasters, and pandemics. Each event painted a picture of a species constantly pushed to its limits, and always finding a way to survive. One thing stands out, she said during another briefing. Humans didn't just evolve physically. You adapted socially and emotionally too. Cooperation became key to survival. Tribes worked together to hunt, build shelters, and protect each other. Over time, these bonds grew stronger, forming communities, nations, and eventually a global network. Laura Finch, who had listened quietly until now, spoke up. That's why we fight so hard, not just for ourselves but for each other. When someone falls, we pick them back up. That's what makes us dangerous. Dr. Vela smiled faintly. And inspiring. Many species focus solely on individual strength or technological advancement. Humans balance both while adding something unique: compassion. Fear turns into paranoia. While the scientific findings provided clarity, they also fueled fear among certain factions. The Iron Coalition, still reeling from their failed assault, saw the data as proof of humanity's threat. General Ziran called an emergency meeting with his council. They're not just strong, he growled, slamming his fist on the table. They're built to dominate. Multiple gene copies, fast healing, adaptable brains. It's like they were engineered to conquer. Commander Veltar tilted her head. Engineered? By whom? I don't know, Ziran admitted. But someone, or something, gave them these traits. Maybe they're part of some grand plan to take over the galaxy. Veltar frowned. Or maybe they're just lucky. Evolution isn't always intentional. Ziran shook his head. Luck doesn't explain how they keep winning. No matter what we throw at them, they come back stronger. If we don't act now, it'll be too late. The council agreed. Plans for a second wave of attacks began immediately, targeting vulnerable human colonies and supply lines. This time, secrecy was paramount. The Iron Coalition couldn't afford another failure. Sharing the findings back at Station Alpha 7, Matt faced a dilemma. Should he share the scientific findings with the rest of the galaxy? On one hand, transparency might ease tensions and dispel myths about humanity being unnatural or engineered. On the other hand, revealing too much could give hostile factions new reasons to attack. After consulting with his team, Matt decided to release a carefully edited report. It highlighted humanity's strengths but emphasized their struggles. The centuries of hardship that forged their resilience. Accompanying the report was a message from President Donna Harper herself. To the citizens of the galaxy, we are not gods. We are survivors. Our strength comes not from power, but from perseverance. Like all beings, we have faced loss, pain, and fear. But we've learned to rise above it, not because we're special, but because we refuse to give up. If you wish to know us, join us. Work with us. Together we can build a future where no one has to face challenges alone. The message resonated deeply with many species. Some saw hope in humanity's story, a reminder that strength wasn't about domination but endurance. Others remained wary, convinced that humans were hiding darker truths. Secret reports circulate, despite the public report. Classified documents leaked within high-ranking circles of the Galactic Concord. One such document, titled The Human Threat Assessment, painted a grim picture. If left unchecked, humans could dominate this sector within centuries, it warned. Their rapid adaptation, combined with their aggressive expansion, poses a significant risk to galactic stability. Immediate action may be necessary to prevent further escalation. These reports sparked heated debates among leaders. Some argued for stricter regulations on human activity, while others pushed for outright containment. Fear spread silently, planting seeds of mistrust that threatened to undermine any progress toward peace. A moment of reflection on Earth. Matt stood on the balcony of his office, gazing at the stars. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. He knew humanity couldn't win every battle, not without losing parts of themselves along the way. Beside him, Laura Finch broke the silence. What happens if they decide we're too dangerous to exist? Matt turned to her, his expression firm but gentle. Then we'll remind them why we're worth keeping around, not because we're perfect, but because we're willing to try, to adapt, to care. Laura nodded slowly. And if talking doesn't work? Matt's smile faded, replaced by steely determination. Then we'll do what we've always done. Survive. Together. The galaxy was a powder keg waiting to explode. While some species admired humanity's resilience and adaptability, others saw only danger. Fear of humans as unstoppable behemoths had taken root, and it was spreading like wildfire. Among the most vocal critics were members of the Iron Coalition, who viewed Earth's growing influence as an existential threat. For weeks, rumors swirled about secret meetings and covert operations targeting human colonies. Spies reported unusual movements. Near border zones and supply ships began disappearing without explanation. It seemed clear that another attack was imminent, but when and where remained unknown. A quiet colony. On the outskirts of human space, a small colony named New Dawn thrived quietly. Nestled on a rocky moon orbiting a gas giant, it was home to fewer than 200 settlers. Most were scientists studying the planet's unique atmosphere, but a handful were families seeking a fresh start away from Earth's crowded cities. Among them was Sarah Lynn, the same aid worker who had single-handedly defeated scavengers months earlier. After her heroic actions made headlines, Sarah had requested a transfer to New Dawn, hoping for peace and solitude. She found joy in tending to the colony's hydroponic gardens and teaching children about Earth's history. Life on New Dawn was simple but fulfilling. The settlers worked together, sharing resources and responsibilities. They had no weapons, only tools, and relied on trust rather than defenses. To Sarah, it felt like paradise, but paradise rarely lasts. The attack one evening, as the settlers gathered for dinner, alarms blared suddenly. Red warning lights flashed across the domes, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Children cried and adults scrambled to figure out what was happening. "Stay calm," Sarah shouted, rushing to the control room. "Let's find out what triggered the alert." The monitors showed multiple alien ships descending rapidly toward the surface. Their markings identified them as part of the Iron Coalition. Panic spread among the settlers, but Sarah kept her voice steady. "We don't have weapons, but we have brains," she said firmly. "Everyone, follow me. We'll use whatever we can find to hold them off until help arrives. With limited time." The settlers improvised barricades using farming equipment, crates, and furniture. Sarah organized teams to defend key areas, assigning tasks based on each person's skills. Farmers became strategists, teachers turned into medics, and engineers rigged traps using power cables and machinery. When the invaders breached the outer dome, they expected an easy victory. Instead, they walked into chaos. The stand inside the main dome, Sarah led the resistance. Armed with nothing more than a wrench and sheer determination, she confronted the first wave of attackers head-on. Her movements were precise and calculated, disarming one soldier after another with brutal efficiency. Nearby, a group of settlers used overturned tables as shields while pelting the invaders with rocks and debris. Others unleashed makeshift flamethrowers created by rerouting fuel lines. The air filled with smoke, shouts, and the sound of clashing metal. Despite their courage, the settlers were outnumbered. Reinforcements wouldn't arrive in time. As the battle raged on, Sarah realized they couldn't win, not outright. But they could buy enough time to send a distress signal. "Kevin," she called out, spotting him near the communications console. "Get that message out. Tell them we're under." The attack on New Dawn sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Footage of the settlers' desperate stand, armed with farming tools and sheer willpower, spread across every corner of known space. Viewers watched in awe as Sarah Lynn led her people, against overwhelming odds, turning their colony into a fortress of resilience. Though reinforcements eventually arrived to drive the invaders away, the damage had already been done. Lives were lost, homes destroyed, and trust shattered. But something else emerged from the ashes: admiration. For many species, humanity's response to the attack wasn't just inspiring, it was humbling. They saw not monsters or conquerors, but survivors who fought not for domination, but for survival. Slowly, attitudes began to shift. Reevaluating humanity. In the aftermath of the battle, leaders from across the galaxy convened at Station Alpha 7 for an emergency summit. The atmosphere was tense, with representatives divided over how to handle the growing conflict. Some argued for stricter measures against humanity, while others called for peace and cooperation. At the center of the debate stood President Donna Harper, Earth's representative. Her calm demeanor masked the weight of responsibility she carried. As the meeting began, she stepped forward to address the council. "Let me be clear," she said, her voice steady but firm. "We did not ask for this war. We came to the stars, seeking friendship, not enemies. But when attacked, we defended ourselves, not out of hatred but necessity." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "If you see us as a threat, then look closer. Look at our history. We are not gods. We are survivors. Every scar we bear tells a story of loss, struggle, and hope. And if you're willing to listen, we'll share those stories with you." Her speech struck a chord. Many delegates nodded thoughtfully, while others whispered among themselves. Even some members of the Iron Coalition seemed moved, though they remained silent. A symbol of unity as the summit continued, stories of human courage began to circulate. One tale in particular captured the galaxy's imagination, that of young Eli, the boy who had guarded Kevin Hale during the battle. Using nothing but a slingshot and rocks, he had taken down several enemy drones, buying precious time for the settlers to send their distress signal. Eli became a symbol of human ingenuity and bravery. Holovid showed him standing beside Sarah Lynn after the battle, his face smudged with dirt but his eyes bright with pride. When asked why he fought so fiercely, he simply replied, "Because my family needed me." Across the galaxy, children mimicked Eli's actions, crafting makeshift slingshots and pretending to defend their homes. Parents marveled at how quickly the boy had become a hero, and how deeply his story resonated with their own values of courage and sacrifice. Apologies and alliances. In the weeks following the summit, apologies began pouring in from unexpected places. Leaders who had once dismissed humanity as dangerous now offered formal regrets for their roles in spreading fear and misinformation. Some even visited Earth personally to express their remorse. One such visitor was Counselor Tren, a reptilian diplomat from a species previously aligned with the Iron Coalition. During his tour of New Dawn, which was slowly being rebuilt, Tren met Sarah Lynn and shook her hand. "You have my deepest respect," he said sincerely. "Your strength, it comes from your heart, not your weapons." Sarah smiled faintly. "Strength means nothing without purpose. We fight to protect what matters." Tren nodded, visibly moved. "Perhaps there is much we can learn from you." Alliances began forming as more species reached out to humanity. Trade agreements were signed, cultural exchanges arranged, and joint missions planned to explore uncharted regions of space. For the first time in years, hope replaced fear. Teaching survival humans embraced their new role as teachers, sharing knowledge and skills with other species. Colonists from New Dawn traveled to alien worlds, demonstrating techniques for sustainable farming, resource management, and disaster preparedness. Soldiers like Laura Finch led training sessions on self-defense, emphasizing teamwork and adaptability. Even everyday habits caught on. Aliens started adopting Earth diets, marveling at how fresh fruits and vegetables improved their health. Martial arts classes filled with eager students hoping to master human combat styles. And language lessons became popular, as many wanted to understand the nuances of human communication. It's amazing, said Zia, the Zalari scientist, during one such lesson. Your words carry emotion, not just meaning. It's beautiful. Maddie, Carter chuckled. That's because we care about connection. Words are just tools to bring us closer. A new perspective. For some species, learning from humans went beyond practical skills. It changed how they viewed themselves. Take the corn, for example. Known for their stoic nature and rigid traditions, they struggled to adapt to change. But, after observing human flexibility and creativity, many began questioning their own ways of life. We've always valued stability, said Thakin, the corn delegate, during a discussion with Matt. But perhaps growth requires discomfort. Perhaps we must risk failure to achieve greatness. Matt nodded approvingly. Change isn't easy, but it's worth it. Inspired by these conversations, Thok returned to his homeworld determined to introduce reforms. He encouraged younger generations to experiment, innovate, and embrace uncertainty, a radical idea for his people, but one that sparked excitement rather than resistance. Dreams of the future, as alliances strengthened and tensions eased, humanity looked toward the future. Explorers like Kevin Hale ventured deeper into uncharted space, mapping star systems and documenting new phenomena. Their reports painted a picture of endless possibilities, worlds waiting to be discovered, mysteries begging to be solved. Back on Earth, President Donna Harper addressed her people in a televised speech. This is only the beginning, she said, her tone brimming with optimism. We've shown the galaxy what it means to endure, to adapt, and to dream. Now let's take those dreams further than ever before. Crowds cheered as images of distant stars flashed on screens behind her. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just looking outward. It was stepping forward, ready to carve its place among the stars.